we have a Ordano pepper here growing in one part of the garden, and we want to move it to another part of the garden. There's a few main steps that you really want to pay attention to when you are transplanting a plant that's fully established in the garden, because it's a living, breathing organism, and we need to make sure that all this living, breathing that's happening above ground is going to be supported by the root system that's below ground. And we'll show you guys some tips and tricks to cutting this plant back. And it sounds counterintuitive because you're cutting a plant back when you're going to move it, but it will help the transplant shock because it won't have so much to support. And then we're going to dig up as many of those roots as we can and pull it out and move it. A key thing to remember also is to never do this when it's really, really hot outside. The cooler it is, it's a nice, cool, windy day today, but the cooler it is, the less transplant shock it'll have because that plant's not having to breathe so much. So yeah, let's get to it and let's move this little Ordano. All right, so we need to cut this plant back. I like to cut back, 30 to 50% of this. It's hard to cut back too much, honestly, with an established plant like this. But with this pepper, I'm gonna cut back, 30 to 50%. So I'm just gonna take some of these big limbs off of here. Cut them back. Maybe cut this one back as well. This as well. Maybe a little bit more. And that seems like a lot, but this plant's really gonna appreciate it whenever we go to transplant it. Then you're gonna take a nice clean Hori Hori and you're gonna dig around where those limbs used to be, because that is where, a rough indicator at least of where those roots are at. So we're gonna just start working our way around. You can do this with a trowel, but I like to use a Hori Hori just because they're sharp and I don't have to worry about pulling as many of those roots out. And once you get a nice dome cut out, then you're just gonna start prying that plant up. And the key here is that you're gonna break a few eggs making this omelet, but if you can keep the majority of those roots intact, you're gonna have a much better chance at getting that plant out. So just like that. That is our pepper, and we're gonna move it over now to a new spot. We're gonna put it right there. Therefore, alright, so we found our spot in the garden. Now, it's basically the same process as if you were to plant a plant that was in a pot that was that size. You're gonna dig a nice wide hole. There we go. You're gonna press that in, have nice root contact with the soil, which is always important when transplanting. You're just gonna slowly brush your soil back around this plant. And you're gonna be really diligent with pressing those air bubbles out of that soil. Air is the enemy of the roots. So we wanna make sure that we are getting all that air out of there. Slowly backfilling it. Not trying to be too gentle necessarily with the roots. We can't really hurt them anymore at this point, we're really just wanting to set them up for success by removing all those air pockets. And that's pretty much it. We have a nice little planted Ordano that is gonna bush out really quickly because it's not gonna have much of a transplant shock. And yeah, it's got a nice big root system to support it. We're gonna water it in, and that's pretty much it. So you can see all the stuff that we cut off of this little Ordano. I know it hurt to do. It's really hard to cut back something that you've been growing all year, but it really was vital to have the success of the transplant. So this you can eat. You can make a wreath out of it. It's a little micro wreath. You can do anything, okay? It's gardening. Go crazy.